Hello everybody and welcome to the Clash of Streamers Advanced Combat Guide. In this video, we're going to go in depth on 5 of the more advanced late game combat features in Clash of Streamers. In number 5, we're going to take a look at abilities. Both your hero's ultimate abilities and auto skill abilities can have a huge impact on your combat progression. To start, we'll take a look at ultimate abilities. But I want to first say that we won't be going super in depth on this topic because ultimate abilities could take up a whole video by themselves. I'll simply mention a few notable abilities for each class that will likely be useful in different scenarios. Mages, for example, are extremely helpful at dealing a ton of area of effect damage. They have quite a few ultimate abilities that attack large groups of enemies, and because of this, it makes them extremely effective at taking out whole teams. With a bit of luck from combat multipliers, you can clear out whole waves of enemies easily. So, if you're ever stuck, try equipping the Dark Vortex ultimate ability on the best mage on your team. By combining a high damage dealing area of effect ability with a 50 times bulk attack, you'll probably find your mage hitting huge combat multipliers and clearing waves pretty quickly. Additionally, crowd control abilities are huge in helping shift the tide of battle, and almost every class is equipped one or more ultimate abilities that has some crowd control effect. Hunters have the Freezing Arrow ability, which has a 25% chance to freeze any backline hero for 2 rounds. Warriors have the Skull Crush ability, which has a 20% chance to stun any backline hero for 2 rounds. Mages have the Asteroid Rain ability, which has a 20% chance to stun any 3 random heroes. Rogues have the Chain Reaction ability, which has a 35% chance to stun any 3 random enemy heroes. And Priests have the Holy Blast ability, which has a 25% chance to petrify any backline hero. You can try experimenting with a team of heavy crowd control heroes. You might find that it helps your team stay alive and prevent damage for long enough to help you win far more fights. This video would go on for far too long if I would discuss different abilities from each class and talk about every potential strategy, so we'll save that for another video. Now let's talk about hero auto skill abilities. It should first be mentioned that you only unlock your auto skill abilities when your heroes hit certain levels. Until a hero hits level 7, it doesn't have access to any auto skill abilities. At level 7, a hero unlocks the first auto skill ability. The next one is unlocked at level 9, and then level 11 for the final auto skill ability. Since these levels all unlock a new auto skill ability, it should be an absolute priority to make sure your heroes reach these levels. If you ever have a choice between getting your best hero to level 8 or getting 5 other heroes to level 7, you should definitely prioritize getting the heroes to level 7, since these passive abilities have a huge impact on your combat potential. For the most part, during the early game and mid game stages of Clash of Streamers, you'll only really have access to 1 or 2 auto skill abilities on each of your heroes. Because of this, it's important that you are very strategic with what abilities you equip. Whenever you only have access to 1 or 2 auto skill abilities on your heroes, you should prioritize the abilities that don't need to synergize with other abilities. Let me give you an example. If you have a rogue that is level 7, one of the worst abilities you could equip on it is the Smell Blood ability. This ability will grant you extra damage against heroes that are bleeding, but since you haven't unlocked any ability that applies bleeding effects, it becomes useless. When limited to 1 to 2 abilities per hero, one of the safest things you can do is use abilities that don't need to synergize with other abilities. For example, every class has abilities that apply unconditional buffs. For high damage dealing classes like rogues and mages, equipping the Deadly Knives and Magic Weapon abilities will grant an additional 40% attack, which is huge. On the other hand, for warriors, abilities like Battle Roar, Shield Barrier, and Hard Skin work great for improving tankiness. Even the Cheat Death ability works out great since it gives your warrior a free resurrect and doesn't need to function alongside other abilities. The same principle applies to any other class. Make sure you are checking your team and ensuring you are making the most of your limited auto skill ability slots. Once you've unlocked all of the auto skill ability slots on each of your heroes, only then can you start to delve into more advanced team compositions with abilities that synergize well with others. In number 4, we're going to take a look at Doobie Empowerment. Doobie Empowerment is a great way to give all of your heroes additional power bonuses as you head into the late game stages of Clash of Streamers. After paying a Krypton fee to export your heroes to the blockchain, you can empower them with Doobie. Any empowered hero will gain an additional 20% power by default, but this power increase can range anywhere from 20% up to 100%. It all depends on how much Doobie you empower your heroes with. You can check out our video on Purpose and Doobie for more info on the power increases from Doobie Empowerment. Due to the fact that exporting is such an expensive process, you should see this option as one of your last resort methods of improving your team. Additionally, if you only have enough Krypton to export one powerful hero to the blockchain, you should prioritize your strongest hero. If you can continuously stack a ton of power on your strongest hero through loyalty tree buffs, doobie empowerment, and skin buffs, I think you'll find a weak team can get carried pretty far by one overpowered hero. In number 3, we're going to take a look at the loyalty tree. It might be easy to forget about this building, but trust me, you really shouldn't. Within the loyalty tree, you have 3 primary functions: buffing certain heroes, countering certain heroes, and adding additional abilities to heroes with pet guardians. To start, we'll look at hero buffs. With a fully unlocked loyalty tree, each of your heroes can get up to 200% additional power. The way this works is through skins. Heroes with certain skins equipped will gain additional bonuses. For example, let's take a look at the LOL section of my loyalty tree. Since I have more than 200 Athene Live skins, each of my Athene Live heroes gain an additional 100% power from the first slot. Additionally, any of my Athene Live heroes that are mages gain an additional 50% power from the bottom left slot, and any of my Athene Live Smork heroes gain an additional 50% power from the bottom right slot. These 50% power bonuses are absolutely massive, so it's important that they are used on the right heroes. This means that you should spec the faction and the class of your strongest hero or the highest frequency class or faction. Let me give a good example. In this case, I have 3 heroes on my Rainbow Aura team that are mages, and all 3 of them are 9-star level 9. These 3 heroes are by far the strongest on my team. Because of that, and because of the fact that they will dish out the most damage, I chose to spec into the 50% additional power on Athene Live mages. On top of that, I chose to buff all of my Athene Live Smork heroes by another 50%. This is because my Smork mage has the best chance of dealing a ton of damage and clearing waves in battle, since it has a legendary artifact equipped, and since it already has an additional 150% power from loyalty tree buffs. By using the loyalty tree strategically to buff your best and most frequent heroes, you can give yourself a much better chance of taking down stronger enemy teams. Additionally, rare, epic, and legendary Athene Live skins provide additional stat bonuses. If you equip these skins with additional bonuses and combine that with the loyalty tree bonuses, you can gain a huge edge in combat. Now, the loyalty tree also gives you the ability to counter certain heroes. The top left slot gives you the ability to counter a certain faction. The top right slot gives you the ability to counter a certain class, and the middle slot gives you the ability to counter heroes with a certain skin. So, all of our heroes with Athene Live skins will deal 50% extra damage against Smork heroes, 50% damage against warriors, and of course, Athene Live heroes need to deal 50% damage against cows to maximize milk. Hopefully you won't need to resort to these methods, but it's always an option if you are that stuck on a certain stage or boss. Last but not least, let's take a look at Pet Guardians. A Pet Guardian basically adds a 5th auto skill ability to all heroes with a specific skin. In this case, our active LOL pet becomes our LOL Pet Guardian. Our Athene Live heroes have a 39% chance to get this 5th auto skill ability when heading into battle. If a hero does get this additional ability applied, you will see this pet's icon above the hero at the start of battle. Having a 5th auto skill ability on heroes opens up a lot of doors for some really intense strategies, so I won't be talking in depth about Pet Guardian abilities in this video. It's just important to keep this in mind. As you play, you can experiment with different ability combinations and use the Pet Guardian's 5th auto skill abilities to help your heroes fare better in the later combat stages. In number 2, we're going to take a look at Faction Stars. Faction Stars unlock after you have reached both Account Power Level 1 and Prestige 1 in the Campaign Tower. Essentially, the Faction Stars system grants additional stars to heroes in each slot before heading to battle. You can take a look at the Faction Stars by clicking on this icon above your team. When clicking it, you'll see the following screen. As you can quickly tell, each slot has a faction. The strongest heroes, pets, and event artifacts from that faction will determine the number of bonus stars the hero in that slot will receive. And the progress bar seen at the top of each faction slot will tell you exactly how close you are to earning another star in that slot. For example, we can take a look at the Smork slot. In the Smork slot, I have 2 powerful heroes, 2 different pets, and a legendary event artifact. The heroes, pets, and event artifact placed in these positions are simply the strongest from my Smork faction. As we reach higher prestige levels, we unlock the ability to have more heroes, pets, and event artifacts contribute to the bonus stars of that slot. Overall, all of these heroes, pets, and event artifacts will determine the number of bonus stars seen here, and the bonus stars represent the additional power applied to the hero in that specific slot. My hero inside of the LoL slot will gain 4 additional stars. My hero inside the PogChamp slot will gain 1 additional star. My heroes inside of the Tryhard and Kappa slots will gain 2 additional stars. And my heroes inside of the Smork and Kappa Pride slots will gain 5 additional stars. So, if we keep an eye on our heroes in the Kappa and Tryhard slots, for example, they should gain 2 additional stars and go from 9 stars to 11 stars when in combat. The same applies to every other hero. So, now that you should have a better understanding of the faction star system, we can start to discuss the importance of it towards your combat progression. For starters, it's obviously extremely important that you continue to complete weekly events for event artifacts and collect as many pets as possible. This will give you much better opportunities to increase the faction stars in each slot, therefore increasing the power of your heroes located in each slot. Additionally, it's a great idea to place your best heroes into the slots which have the highest faction stars. In my case, we can look back at my Smork Mage I talked about earlier. Since this hero has already had its power increased by 200% in the loyalty tree, and since it has a legendary event artifact making it even more powerful, it makes sense to place it in the position that has the highest number of faction stars. This would either be the Smork slot or the Kappa Pride slot. However, if you remember back to our beginner's combat guide video when we discussed the positioning of heroes, it doesn't make much sense to place our strongest mage into the front position since it will be dealing most of the damage. That's why our Smork Mage will go into the Smork Faction Stars slot, and our Kappa Warrior will go into the Kappa Pride Faction Stars slot and take the brunt of the enemy damage. If you use the Faction Stars system with loyalty tree buffs, doobie empowerment, skin buffs, and any other possible buffs available, you can make your heroes incredibly strong, and as a result progress much further in the various combat related buildings of Clash of Streamers. In number 1, we're going to take a look at event artifacts. Event artifacts are unlocked when completing different weekly events in their entirety. An event artifact has 4 primary attributes: color, class, faction, and ability. When completing a weekly event, you are able to forge an event artifact, and depending on the rarity of the event artifact unlocked, you are able to customize a certain number of aspects. When unlocking a rare event artifact, you customize only the color, and the rest of the attributes are randomized. When unlocking an epic event artifact, you can customize the color and the class. At legendary, you can customize the color, class, and faction. And at a shiny legendary event artifact, you can customize all 4 attributes. Additionally, rare and epic event artifacts can upgrade to legendary event artifacts at the last minute, and the odds of that can be found inside of the avatar. So what are event artifacts and why are they so important to your combat progression? Essentially, when an event artifact is equipped on a hero from that artifact's faction and class, the color of the hero is changed to match the event artifact, and the hero is given a certain ultimate ability. That ultimate ability has a chance to activate every time the hero attacks. If a rare event artifact is equipped, the chance of the ability being activated on each attack is 5%. If the event artifact is epic, the chance is 20%. If it's a legendary event artifact, the chance is 35%, and at a shiny legendary event artifact, the chance is 50%. This is a huge deal since some of these combat abilities are really quite significant. When forging an event artifact, by default, it is equipped on your best hero from that faction and class, but you can swap it between any other heroes that are of the same class type and faction. Due to the nature and power of these event artifacts, you want to ensure you are completing as many weekly events as possible. After you've unlocked 5 event artifacts of the same faction and rarity, you unlock the ability to upgrade them inside of the upgrade building. When you upgrade an event artifact, you are simply improving the rarity of the event artifact, increasing the chances that the ultimate ability will activate on each round. In this case, upgrading the top epic event artifact will turn it into a legendary event artifact, changing the ultimate ability activation chance from 20% to 35%. If you have the right ultimate abilities on your event artifacts, then you will have a much easier time progressing in combat. For example, imagine 6 shiny legendary event artifacts with the Holy Breeze ability equipped on each of your heroes in combat. After each round, your heroes will be healing by an absolutely insane amount of health, which is a huge deal. While shiny legendary event artifacts are extremely difficult to get, and while there are likely many other abilities which would be more effective in combat, the examples should give you a good idea of how overpowered event artifacts are and how insane they can be in combat. The more event artifacts applied to your best heroes in combat, the better your odds of progressing through more difficult combat stages. Event artifacts are by far the most overpowered mechanic in the game if you have the right abilities equipped and the right rarity applied. So, make sure you are constantly completing weekly events and upgrading your event artifacts artifacts in the upgrade building whenever you have the opportunity to do so. And that's all we've got to talk about for this advanced combat progression guide. If you're currently stuck and employ these tips correctly, it's very likely that you can progress at least a few prestiges further in the campaign tower and a few ranks higher in the arena. If you learned something useful, don't forget to leave a like and definitely subscribe for more. A lot more Clash of Streamers content on the way. Until the next time.